Welcome everyone. The webinar will begin shortly and will be recorded. Connect with the campaign for grade level reading on social media. On Facebook, like the page Campaign for GLR, and on Twitter, follow the account at Reading by Third. Please use hashtag Learning Tuesdays and tag us to tweet anything you learn from today's webinar, and we'll be sure to retweet. We encourage you to share your questions, reflections, and observations on social media. Once again, we would love to connect. So on Facebook, like the page Campaign for GLR, and on Twitter, follow the account at Reading by Third. The webinar will begin shortly. It will be recorded and shared with you afterwards. Okay, once again, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Sierra Sanchez, and I will be behind the scenes helping to produce this conversation. I have just a few housekeeping details before we get started. First, we would love for you to introduce yourself, so please use the chat box at the bottom of the screen to share your name, city or state, and your organization. Be sure when responding to select both panelists and attendees so that we all know who is here. All attendees are in listen-only mode, but we encourage your engagement by posting questions in the Q&A box. We will dedicate the last portion of the conversation to respond to the questions you post during the discussion. This webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be made available on Friday to all who registered, and we are live streaming on Facebook Live as well. Finally, we will be posting a brief on-screen evaluation during Q&A and highly encourage you to respond. This helps us with our commitment to continuous improvement. Lastly, before we start, I would just like to call your attention to our upcoming GLR Learning Tuesdays webinars. Later today at 3 p.m., we have another Learning Loss Recovery Challenge session, a peek into playful learning classrooms, what success looks like. We hope that you'll join us shortly after this one for that. Next week on July 6th, we encourage you to join us after the holiday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for an important discussion with executives of sector-leading organizations such as the Education Commission of the States, the Education Trust, and others exploring state actions in support of accelerating equitable learning recovery in a session titled Meeting the Moment, State Policies and Spending Decisions. On July 13th, we will engage in another follow-on discussion to the April Forum, co-sponsored with Education Week, when we will learn from Dr. Pamela Cantor and her colleagues in a session titled Learning Happens Everywhere, Returning to School with a Whole Child Perspective. Finally, on July 20th, we'll have an exciting doubleheader with only one listed here. First with a peer exchange focused on the work of our partners at Reach Out and Read at 12:30, and another session on state policies at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, this time with Chief State School Officers. We'll be sure to add a link in the chat box for more information and for registration for these upcoming learning opportunities. Joining you now is Jenny Atkinson, Senior Consultant with the Campaign for Grade Level Reading. Thank you and enjoy the webinar.
Thanks so much, Sierra, and thanks to all of you for joining us for our peer learning exchange learning conversation today. These webinars are designed with an intentionally flexible format that highlights thematically framed conversations among communities, partners, and other stakeholders around the latest work they're doing to slow, stop, and reverse learning loss and advance the early school success prospects of children from economically challenged families, neighborhoods, and communities. Our conversation will lift up what communities and partners are doing and how they're doing it, as well as what they've learned and how they intend to apply what they've learned for ongoing success. We believe that sharing our challenges and successes and gathering in conversation will lead us all to do better work, get better faster, and grow to do this work at scale. Across the Campaign for Grade Level Reading Network, universities and colleges are doing critical work. Some are providing leadership for coalitions, others are collecting and analyzing data or engaging in programming and leading important initiatives. Today, we will hear from communities where institutions of higher education are leading and supporting the work of early school success around the country. We'll hear about the Grinnell Education Partnership based at Grinnell College in Iowa from Monica Chavez-Silva and Melissa Strovers. Their community was recently featured for their measurable progress in moving the needle on grade level proficiency in the networks that created a social impact report produced by the Network for Nonprofit and Social Impact at Northwestern University. Kathleen Knudsen facilitator from Metro-Omaha raised me to read. We'll talk about the Urban Thinkscapes Initiative and other work they're doing in conjunction and partnership with the University of Nebraska in Omaha. Shelby, Redondo, family childcare coordinator with the United Way of Denton County in Texas, will discuss strategic partnerships with colleges and universities around a range of childcare provider initiatives. And Dr. Elizabeth Swann will discuss the partnership between childcare resources of Indian River and Indian River State College in Florida. I'm really excited for our presentation today, and we're going to start by digging in with a GLR community where the college is providing leadership for the local campaign for grade level reading initiative. I'm happy to introduce our first two presenters. Monica Chavez-Silva leads the Community Enhancement Strategic and Operational Activities at Grinnell College. This includes assessing campus and community needs, collaborating with college and community leadership, overseeing local grant-making activities, stewarding outreach programming, and driving collective impact initiatives to enhance the social and economic vitality in Grinnell. She currently serves on the board of the International Town and Gown Association, the Advisory Council for the Anchor Institution Task Force, and most recently appointed by Governor Reynolds to the Iowa Commission on Volunteer Service. Prior to Grinnell College, Monica served as a consumer resource specialist and brand strategist at Leo Burnett Chicago, including a gap year in South America to establish a research office for Leo Burnett in Santiago, Chile. Melissa Strovers is the Director of Collective Impact at Grinnell College. Strovers leads all aspects of the college community enhancement collective impact initiatives to build capacity and affect systems change toward common goals. For her leadership with the Grinnell AmeriCorps Partnership, Strovers received an Outstanding Volunteer or National Service Manager Award by the state of Iowa in 2019. This award recognizes one who demonstrates excellence in program management and innovation in maximizing resources. Strovers holds a bachelor's degree in communications from Oklahoma Christian University and a master's degree in public administration from Drake University. Welcome, Monica and Melissa.
Well, good morning, and well, in the Midwest, I suppose it's good morning, and thank you for the introduction, Jenny. We really appreciate that. So I am Monica Chavez-Silva. As Jenny said, I work at Grinnell College, and one of the big projects we're working on is collaborating with the community on this campaign for grade level reading, the Grinnell Education Partnership, and I'm thrilled to be here with my colleague, Melissa Strovers. Today, we have 4 things that we'll be talking about, and those would be just a brief little introduction about Grinnell, so you know who we are and the place that we live and work. Some really direct conversations about why Grinnell College might be involved in early literacy in the first place. A lot more detail about what that involvement actually looks like on the ground. And then the indicators that we have, that we use, that are showing us that it's working. So with that, I'd like to just share a little bit more about Grinnell. So Grinnell College is a small private liberal arts college in the middle of Iowa. We do have a national presence. You know, you see here the U.S. News and World Report ranks the college as number 13. So we've got kids, students coming from all over the country and all over the world to Grinnell, about 1,700 students in all. Like I said, we're small. And again, big diversity of students, 20% international, a quarter people of color. So really bringing a great diversity. Somewhere I think I heard that there were 25 different languages spoken in this town of Grinnell. The town itself is a small, rural, central Iowa, 9,000 residents in all, which include those college students. And I like to think of us as a vibrant micropolitan. So not a big place, but there's a lot going on. We like to call ourselves the jewel of the prairie. A little bit more about the community as it pertains to this campaign in particular and children. This was a map that came out in the New York Times a few years ago, actually, where you could map poverty in your neighborhood. And one of the things that you see here very clearly in Grinnell is the split along what that line is there's a highway that runs through town, Highway 146, excuse me, Highway 6. And you see a difference in poverty and basically the kinds of experiences families encounter sort of north of 6 and south of 6. Good news, we don't have extreme poverty, so you don't see lots of dark blue on this chart, but you really do, I think this does a great job of really demonstrating how even in our very small town where all the kids go to the same schools, you know, there's one high school, you know, there are like a handful of grocery stores, so we're all shopping together, the kids are on the same sports teams, everybody is very much together, yet families can still have a very different experience of life in the community. I thought that was a great slide for that. So why would Grinnell College get involved with early literacy in the first place? And that's a good question. And it really stems back to 2015. As I was thinking about this, there was really an interesting confluence of events. A couple things happened sort of all at the same time in 2015. On the one hand, we had a president of a college at the time who was very interested in education, public education. And together with the superintendent at that time, he formed a task force on Grinnell schools. So the purpose was to try to figure out how the college and how the school district could work better together. So there was an atmosphere in town about thinking about the schools and thinking about that educational relationship and what does that look like. The second thing that happened is that we were lucky enough to host some speakers from the Campaign from Grade Level Reading into town. There had been other communities in Iowa who had earlier experience with the campaign. We had sort of heard about it in some meetings. We were members of the Iowa Council of Foundations and heard about it through some of those meetings. And people from the campaign came out and spoke to a large group of community organizations who all thought this sounded like it could be a really good fit for our town. The third thing is AmeriCorps. We were at another meeting and there were people there from the state, the Volunteer Iowa, who invited our community to participate in a grant opening that they had for AmeriCorps members. And they thought Grinnell would be a great fit. So all of these things kind of came together at the same time and really, I think, have been keys to our program moving forward. The campaign has been critical because it's given us a concrete framework to work within. We didn't really have to reinvent the wheel because we knew there was this research-based work that the Casey Foundation had done underlying the campaign. And then the AmeriCorps was really critical because in such a tiny town with such small organizations, many of whom are unstaffed, being able to have that extra capacity to help out and drive some projects forward was really, really important. So with that background, I think I'll hand it over to Melissa, who will tell you a little bit more about how we manage our program now. Melissa is really the powerhouse behind this entire program, so I will leave it in her capable hands.
Thanks, Monica, and thank you everyone for being here today. We're excited to share more about our local campaign effort in Grinnell, Iowa. So as Monica mentioned, the college's involvement, I'm going to start on this slide here that you see in front of us, the pyramid, right? So Grinnell College and the Greater Poweshiek Community Foundation serve as the backbone, utilizing the collective impact model. And as the backbone agency, our role is twofold. So one, we recruit, train, supervise, coach, and mentor AmeriCorps members, which Monica mentioned are really the people power that help to support so many of the campaign initiatives in our local community. In addition to that, we see our role and get involved with convening, facilitating, and really co-creating local agency strategies to align community-based resources for PK through 12 initiatives. whereas the Greater Poweshiek Community Foundation, who also serves as the backbone, houses the fund and provides administrative support. So when I say houses the fund, they house the fund for grant funds for private donation, largely in part that supports cost shares for AmeriCorps members, as well as programming funds for the AmeriCorps members to be able to provide support for the projects that they work on. And finally, at the top of our pyramid, we have 20 plus community organizations who are really the content experts, whereas the AmeriCorps members really provide the human capital to coordinate and propel the projects forwards, working closely with those local nonprofit organizations, as you'll see throughout our presentation. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about AmeriCorps. So as you saw in the previous slide, Grinnell College serves as the backbone and really brings the people power through AmeriCorps. So AmeriCorps is a federal program of national service. It's similar to Peace Corps. Some of you may be familiar with AmeriCorps, but it's based on domestic service. The AmeriCorps members are neither volunteers nor employees. They receive a very modest living allowance to help them through their service. Every year, AmeriCorps places more than 270,000 AmeriCorps members with organizations across the country. And we make sure that we know that we share with our AmeriCorps members that they are a part of this larger network, really bringing Americans together to serve communities. Next, we're going to talk about the VISTA program. The VISTA program has been around since 1964 with the poverty focus. It addresses issues of local poverty that we discussed earlier, as Monica mentioned in our slide. The AmeriCorps program maintains the anti-poverty focus today. Next, we're going to talk about funding for our program and how it works. So our program has been in existence since 2015. Since then, we have received more than $650,000 in funding from AmeriCorps to fund the AmeriCorps members. As Monica mentioned, many of the organizations that we partner with in our local community are very interested in supporting education initiatives, but don't have the bandwidth in order to move some of the projects forward. With the service of AmeriCorps and through the service of AmeriCorps member, we've been able to move many projects forward in our community. In fact, so much so that in 2021, we were able to write another grant for $96,000 that will help to continue our program for the next 3 years. Also, we've been able to leverage $50,000 in private donations, and countless volunteer hours have all helped this initiative to propel forward. In fact, one of our AmeriCorps VISTA members who headed up the volunteer program for the Local Food Coalition is on this call today, Jill Harris. And you know, we couldn't do all of this without the support of the AmeriCorps members, the AmeriCorps VISTA members, and our community partners. Next, we're going to look at the Grinnell College team. So Grinnell College is committed to the Campaign for Grade Level Reading, as they've demonstrated for the last 6 years. We have a team of 4, including 2 individuals, myself and Liz Hansen, who I believe is also on the call today, who are dedicated 100% to the Campaign for Grade Level Reading, or the Grinnell Education Partnership Initiative in our local community. With strategic guidance from Monica and the help of an AmeriCorps VISTA member who helps with the planning, together we make up the team from Grinnell College, working in coordination with the Executive Director of Greater Poweshiek Community Foundation. And you can see the various roles that we all share in as we move this work forward. With that said, we're going to talk a little bit about who are the AmeriCorps members, who's made up our cohorts over the past 6 years. So since 2015, we have had more than 160 members who have placed in our community of 9,000 people, right? So it's exciting to have worked alongside of so many AmeriCorps members and to see the positive impact that they've had on local nonprofit organizations, organizations and the kids in our communities. They've served as mentors through the Help for Summer initiatives and so much more. Interestingly, you can see the types of members we've had. I mean, we've had members who have been high school students, who have been young professionals, we've had retirees. It's really exciting to see the diverse group of individuals who have served in our community to help support these initiatives. Additionally, we talked a lot about organizations who are involved in our project. We've got organizations representing the business community, nonprofit community, governmental community, and funders, as you saw in one of the previous slides. So the next slide we're going to look at is how are the members who are in our current cohort, how are they serving? So just a quick note, in 2021, we pivoted our relationship with Iowa Campus Compact to Iowa Campus Compact and Volunteer Iowa. So Grinnell College moved from the direct grant administrator to working with statewide partners, Iowa Campus Compact and Volunteer Iowa. And it's been really remarkable, the support that they provided through those two state agencies, statewide agencies. We've been able to leverage the task force coordinators through Volunteer Iowa, and also the GEP planner through Campus Compact. So currently we have 16 people placed. We have 4 task force coordinators, 1 after school enrichment aide, 1 GEP planner, and then 10 summer learning corps members who will help to support summer learning in our community this summer. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to talk about some of the service projects that occurred during the pandemic. So I'm going to take you through a series of 3 or 4 slides. I just want to let you know this is just a brief snapshot of some of the projects that have been initiated by AmeriCorps VISTA members this year, working in partnership with a community-based task force. So all of the AmeriCorps members, VISTA members, work with a task force to help identify what the needs are in the community. As Monica mentioned, the campaign framework has been a wonderful framework for us to work with because we're able to customize it based on our local need. And so through the work of a volunteer task force and the AmeriCorps VISTA members, we're able to pivot to those needs that are most pressing. And as you know, with the pandemic, there are several needs that popped up. So one of the screens that you're seeing, the screen that you're seeing right now is an art activity packet that was put into tiger packs to go to children who needed a little bit of extra help during the pandemic. So this project was inspired by significant challenges and stress placed on families and kids by the pandemic. A local social worker at Grinnell Middle School said the students were so surprised by the addition of the art bag, noting that she had already seen the books and coloring activities being enjoyed during study halls soon after the first distribution. So the art packs were designed as a tool to help connect life experience through art and to deal to address and help support some of the social emotional issues that children were facing during the pandemic. Next slide, please. Another service highlight was also inspired by the significant challenges and stress placed on food insecurity. So this is one of the projects that is amazing project. So many people volunteered in our community. So in coordination with our local food coalition, VISTA members, Grace Morrison, who's our school readiness task force coordinator, Jill Harris, our skills gap coordinator, and Saham Sharif, the family engagement coordinator, helped to support this very important initiative to address food insecurity and Grinnell. This program was through the USDA Farm to Families program, a free food box program. We did this program December 2020 to May 21. Once the food distribution came to a close, Jill and her fellow AmeriCorps VISTA members had coordinated with 27 local agencies and 13 agencies from surrounding communities to distribute 7,291 food boxes amounting to $274,000 worth of food. There's no way that we could have accomplished this without the support of the AmeriCorps Vista members and partnering with the local organizations. Jill organized over 111 volunteers to help with distribution events. Just an amazing service highlight during a really important time getting food into the hands of families that really need it the most. Another program highlight that I just want to mention briefly, again, partnering with the local library to help support programming in any way they could really during the pandemic was doing virtual offerings. And again, Grace Morrison and Jill Harris were excellent in helping to partner with the Drake Community Library. So even though the kids couldn't get in person anymore, they were able to help provide a space virtually for kids to enjoy educational activities and interact with others. Next slide, please. And finally, another program that was offered by Drake Community Library by our after school enrichment aide, Athena, who's a current Grinnell College student, was this dance parties with Drake Library. Just love this. So these are just some of our service highlights. As you'll see on the next slide, there's a link to our Grinnell Education Partnership.org, to our blog, where all of these stories are featured with much more detail than I provided today. I'm going to go ahead and drop this link in the chat, and you guys can check out our website. Go ahead with the next slide, and you'll see that website link again at the end of this presentation.
Okay. So thanks, Melissa, for sharing, some of the programming that's happened through the program. I know we're sort of a little near the end of time, so I'll go through these last slides really quickly, but I wanted to kind of give some highlights of the fact that we have learned that this seems to be working and how we know that it seems to be working. So we looked at a couple different measures. On the first hand, one of those is network strength. So earlier in her introduction, Jenny mentioned the Northwestern University's Network for Nonprofit and Social Impact. They did a study all across the country looking at network-based programs, network-based initiatives involved in education. And our community was lucky enough to participate in that study. This slide just kind of shows the connections where they interviewed leaders in the community. So people saying that they had close relationships with senior leaders across other organizations. Another network slide compares us to a peer organization. So next slide, please. And you can see just a real quick snapshot of Grinnell on the left and the other organization the other network on the right. And this one is about peer information sharing. So you can see how much more information sharing is going on throughout our network and the leaders who sit in different organizations. So people aren't trying to do the same job, but they're doing it in communication with others. We also, of course, look at education metrics, and so did the people at Northwestern. So in their study, on the next slide, you can see the places where Northwestern studied. And of the 26 networks that they looked into, apparently Grinnell was one of 8. I had a typo in there, so not one of 3, but one of 8 networks to have actually shown any measurable impact on the measures that they were looking at. They were looking at 4th grade and 8th grade literacy, as well as high school graduation. And we were really excited to learn that we actually had shown progress on all 3 of those measures. So that was good news for us. And then the next slide shows research that we've done just internally, just looking at, this is the first 2 years of the initiative, and what you're looking at here is Grinnell's 3rd grade reading scores on the left, where the tiger, so of course that's orange and black, and then the statewide reading scores on the right over the same time period, and you see that Grinnell's scores went up in those first 2 periods of time. And what we were most excited about, and to me this is super thrilling, is that second set of bars is looking at low-income third graders. So you see that we made the most progress in those low-income third graders who are really the key focus. We want to involve programming for everyone, but in the backs of our minds, we know that it's really those low-income students who are the primary focus. Next slide, please. All right, so Melissa talked about programming during the pandemic, and you know, we weren't sure what would happen, but it looks like we had continued progress. The school district shared this information that school readiness scores were good, kindergarten enrollment was down, but proficiency was up. We also saw improvements in K-4 literacy. We saw continued growth with low-income students and continued growth with those kids who participated in summer learning programs. So we are really excited about the effort. We hope there's something here that can be inspiring, and happy to share more with others. So the next page just has our contact information on it. Again, there's the website that Melissa was talking about. The next slide has our Facebook information in case you wanted to see information there. And then the last slide has the contact information for myself and Melissa, our email, if you wanted to connect with us directly. So I will leave it there and turn it back over to Jenny.
Thank you so much, Monica and Melissa. That was a great presentation. I loved learning more about how you use your AmeriCorps volunteers, and that's really exciting news to hear about your grade level reading scores as well. So congratulations on the hard work that led to those kind of results. Next, we're going to hear from Kathleen Knudsen. A sixth generation Nebraskan, Kathleen holds 3 degrees from the University of Nebraska-Omaha, including a Master's of Science in Educational Administration. Past experience includes working as a UNO graduate assistant in student retention and sharing at the National College Learning Center Association convention, the collaborative work between UNO's College of Fine Arts and Learning Center. Highlights from teaching include building a K-12 talented and gifted program and teaching senior project to high school and alternative school seniors. Knudsen's work as a school administrative manager at a high poverty elementary school led her to training and facilitating presentations regarding school climate, culture, trauma-informed schools, adverse childhood experiences, compassion fatigue and secondary trauma, and collaborative proactive solutions. A former fast pitch catcher, Knudsen's ability to see the field has served her well as an educator and now facilitator, enabling her to understand the assets and talents of others and to connect the myriad of influences leading to circumstances in order to determine the responsive actions necessary to engender successful outcomes. At Metro-Omaha Raise Me to Read, Knudsen brings a holistic understanding that any achievement has at its genesis relationships. Welcome, Kathleen.
Thank you. I'm so proud to be presenting as lead of Metro-Omaha Raise Me to Read, and again, as a thrice proud alumna of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. I'm also presenting on behalf of my 2 partners in the Omaha Urban Thingscapes Project who could not be here today, Dr. Deborah Wisniewski from the College of Education, Health and Human Sciences, and Stephen Osberg from the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce. Our initial connection to the university comes through an organization called MOEC. They are the Metropolitan Omaha Educational Consortium. MOEC is a backbone for Metro-Omaha Raise Me to Read. It was founded in 1988 and moved to a collective impact model in 2017. It's a forum and community for education professionals, and they have work groups moving, task forces moving, looking at data, all to move towards their goal of improving education in metro area public schools, community colleges, and the university. They're housed on the campus of the University of Nebraska-Omaha. The executive director of MOEC is Dr. Martha Bruckner. She is a former superintendent, assistant superintendent, College of Educational Administration chair, where I first met her, and was a principal and teacher in our area. When considering the groups involved in MOEC, there are, that's the next slide, there are 12 school districts, Douglas and Shelby County, Nebraska, and Potawatomi County in Iowa. And just a little geographic primer is that both Nebraska and Iowa have borders along the Missouri River. And so our larger metro includes cities and towns along the river on both sides of the river in 2 different states. So the school districts are from Iowa and Nebraska, and the community colleges from Iowa and Nebraska. The University of Nebraska Omaha is a member, as are 2 educational service units in Nebraska. The supporting organizations for MOEC are the Buffett Early Childhood Institute and the Learning Community of Douglas and Sarpy Counties, also the Peter Kiewit Foundation. The Buffett Early Childhood Institute is sponsored by the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and the Learning Community of Douglas and Sarpy Counties is a state mandated organization, and they also help fund Metro-Omaha Raise Me to Read. I just dropped in some personal reflections from their last year's report because it kind of gives you the flavor of all those working at MOEC. When we consider the college connection between Metro-Omaha Raise Me to Read MOEC and the University of Nebraska, we can look at the College of Education, Health and Human Sciences in our next slide. We're housed here on the campus, and we're in the wonderful, beautiful Barbara Weiss Community Engagement Center, where other initiatives also live and where it's very easy to collaborate across different organizations in Omaha and with the university in this absolutely fantastic building. The College of Education, Health and Human Sciences has supported our Omaha Urban Thinkscapes project, and Dr. Nancy Edict, our dean, is the one who suggested to Dr. Wisniewski that we apply for a new grant that was available at the University of Nebraska. It is called the Strategic Investment Social Justice, Race, Inequality, and Class Grant. And that was awarded to Omaha Urban Thinkscapes after much great work from Deborah Wisniewski. Dr. Deborah Wisniewski is the John T. Langen Community Chair of Early Childhood Education. Her teaching interests include play and early childhood curriculum. She is much sought after here in the community, working in playful landscapes and design of new spots, spaces and places in Omaha. Her research interests include teaching and learning through play environments, collaborative school and classroom research. The genesis of the grant came from the UNO Strategic Planning Forum, and I just pulled a couple bites from that whole forum. But UNO decided to launch a new and intentional investment at the scale of big ideas, committed to the topics of social justice, inequality, race, and class in our society. UNO stated that it must remain committed as part of its strategic plan to be an academic partner to the community in effecting positive change, whether through community engagement, supporting students, translational research that changes the national discourse, or positive high impact experiences in Omaha and beyond. So again, that was their part of their planning, and then they built an application process, and the Omaha Urban Thinkscapes were awarded a grant for research that's connected with Omaha Urban Thinkscapes. So Raise Me to Read and Dr. Wisniewski created an application, and in that application, on our next slide, we just list some things we asked them to consider. The first was that urban thinkscapes are prime learning spaces for parents and children in areas where such engaging places are absent and where adversity may impede parent-child engagement. Tangible changes created via focus on the supreme importance of parent-child interactions, that secret sauce that we all talk about here in the campaign, and in building brain architecture, as well as the art and architecture of a community, so that we develop that sense of value and belonging to a community as well. Ultimately, the Omaha Urban Thinkscapes project can be a catalyst for UNO to become a leader in engaged scholarship in interdisciplinary research and service learning around child rights, play, community planning, and equity. We had to also, you see here in our grant, we had to add possible other campus stakeholders and then delineate who it is that we're going to reach out to in our community. Just sort of a side note, we had read the National Endowment for the Humanities grant and wondered, in our next slide, wondered if that were thing that we were ready to do, and we're like, we're not there yet. And then we had a conversation with a community organization which suggested that in our Thinkscape footprints, we should have art and architecture and storytelling about the history of the community where those Thinkscapes live. And so we went from we're not there yet to we're there, and we hope to have help from the university again in applying for that National Endowment for the Humanities grant. And that would be a planning to plan grant, but to really learn the history of the area where the Thinkscapes will be and to make that an important piece of the Thinkscape architecture. Our third member of our small team here working on the Omaha Urban Thinkscapes project is Stephen Osberg. He is from the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce. He says that the chamber takes a holistic view of their work, doing all that they can to make Greater Omaha a vibrant place to live, work, and do business. He also says it's his job to bring people together to figure out how our region should function and collectively determine the best path to get there. The challenge, he says, lies in shifting people's mindset toward one of empathy and intentionality about the future. That is Stephen's greatest gift to our threesome. He has intentionally and thoughtfully and strategically thought about who it is that we need to meet first, who comes next as we build our coalition of interested partners in our community. And we've had great enthusiastic welcome, but also it's Stephen's thoughtfulness about connecting with organizations that are on the ground, that roots are on the ground, they live in those communities. And so we're building quite a network with his help. Another way that we have been intentional is to connect Omaha Urban Thinkscapes with what is already existing. So one document that we have here is from the Metropolitan Area Planning Agency, and that's called the Heartland 2050. That document, it describes what we should be at in the year 2050 and the things that we need to do between now and then. And so we felt it was really important to pull from that also, and the relevant vision goals that we pulled that match our goals for the Urban Thinkscapes are: together, our region will provide the highest quality education system that educates the workforce of the future. Together, our region will be known for healthy living, safe neighborhoods, preservation of arts and culture, and exceptional healthcare. And together, our region will be known for welcoming, connected, and lively communities. And we really think those three are a match for our Urban Thinkscapes project. Dr. Wisniewski, Stephen, and I wrote 3 goals for Omaha Urban Thinkscapes. The first is to create a playful sense of place in Omaha public spaces that showcases the art and culture of the neighborhoods. And I am showcasing the art and culture of the neighborhoods because these background slides are from murals in the city of Omaha. Our goal 2 is to engage children and families with playful learning experiences while using public spaces. That's our goal 2 slide. And within that space, we were thinking about, of course, the bigger footprints of a Thinkscape, of a large Thinkscape like is in Philadelphia, but also those smaller aspects. And we intend to create a toolkit for replication in our community, and that includes what we learned from the larger building process, but also those little parklets and signage that can be in grocery stores, the corners for reading nooks in doctor's offices or in laundromats. Those kinds of things will all be included in that second goal, so that we sort of move out into the community about, you can do that too. It doesn't have to be this big project. For goal 3, of course, we want to increase the language and cognitive development of Omaha children and residents. We know, as stated earlier, that it is those early interactions between parent and child that builds that cognitive, that brain architecture. And we know that if we can provide more spaces and places where this easily happens, then children in our community will be more likely to be ready to learn when they come to school. And if they're ready to learn when they come to school, all the people at this table today here know that the arc of their success will be greatly enhanced. We have already mentioned, I want to discuss our partners. We've already mentioned the base of our partners, but along with Stephen's help, we have, thank you, we have established partners in addition to the college and MOEC and Raise Me to Read. We've added partners that are Omaha by Design, Amplify Arts, the Union for Contemporary Art, the Metropolitan Area Planning Agency, Metro Area Transit, Sparks CDI, RDG Planning and Design, the Playful Learning Landscapes Action Network, and you'll be hearing from Dr. Pasek in the later presentation today, the City of Omaha Planning and Public Works Departments, and Prairie STEM and Here for You for them. We are continuing to move along and to read and to engage new people every couple of weeks to build our coalition. And I just wanted to say with Prairie STEM and Here for You for them, they are sort of on the end side of our project, but they intend to help us create QR codes so that there can be STEM learning and folks that are there can just use that QR code and get some deeper learning. And then Here for You for them will be part and parcel of that mindfulness, and they both want to do pop-up activities at the 2 Thinkscapes. I see a question about libraries interfacing. We have 3 members from the Omaha Public Library on our board, and we have partners in some of the smaller town libraries. My hometown of Valley was an early partner for Metro-Omaha Raise Me to Read, and we do intend to keep them part of this. And there was a member here from the library that's their outreach person, Jody Durand, who we're in constant contact with. So I'm glad you asked that question. We're in phase 1 right now, which is identifying partners, funders, designers, community and education leaders, researchers, and artists. We are so proud of the high level of artistry that occurs in Omaha in all levels of the arts, and we cannot wait to see what our artists come up with for these projects. We also have already invited consultants from the original Urban Thinkscape project, the Playful Learning Landscapes group. We've met with them and hope to meet with them again in the fall. And one thing we decided was to create an advisory team, a small group that sort of surrounds us. We know this is going to get much bigger than us, and we know that we need to continue to keep to our core goals so that this project doesn't become something it was never meant to be. And so we are identifying partners that can be on a small advisory team with us. Of course, we have to develop a budget in our next slide and confirm funding sources. Again, we received a marvelous initial funding source from the University of Nebraska, Omaha, and that will cover the research aspect of the Omaha Urban Thinkscapes. We're working to identify initial sites. We believe we will have one site that has very high foot traffic and is a place where people gather often. And then another space will be more of a neighborhood space. And we hope that we'll get some really good research out of that. We'll glean some good ideas, seeing how the play in each space is different and similar. We do intend to break ground on 2 sites in the spring of next year, so the spring of 2022. And last but most important, we intend to hold community, artists, and education focus groups to guide the design of the Think Spaces. We know that we are not going to be successful if we parachute in, as Stephen says, to any community. We need to work from the ground up. And again, all the groups that we've met with are right there on the ground and can help us connect. And we also want our experts to be from the children to the elderly to everyone in between. because this needs to be a place and space that's meaningful to them, that's part of their neighborhood, that's something they want and something that they can help design. And we're not inventing anything new here. We all know that community engagement is the most important aspect of any project. And that around the world, there are just wonderful projects, and you see student and child design just coming to life. It's very wonderful. I hope that that's a quick review of where we are and what we're doing. It demonstrates the manner in which a university system can support a grade level reading initiative, both just where we live and work, which is here on the campus at UNO, and also with that really important sanction of the university in funding research for this Omaha Urban Thinkscape project, which again is part of our overall grade level reading campaign here in Omaha. And I'm very thankful that I was able to present here today.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. That was terrific. And I really enjoyed hearing about the way that the university is has sparked and is really supporting the Urban Landscapes project. I'm going to look forward to following the work of that project over time. Our next presenter is Shelby Redondo. Shelby joined the staff of the United Way of Denton County in May of 2020. Shelby earned her bachelor's degree of science in human development and family science from the University of North Texas. She completed her bachelor level internship with the United Way's Education and Workforce Initiatives team. Before joining United Way, Shelby interned with the Children's Learning Institute and with a variety of grants from the UT Health Science Department. In her role as a family childcare coordinator, Shelby supports home-based childcare providers in providing quality care to the children in their care. Shelby believes that every child deserves the right to quality. Welcome, Shelby.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. A little bit about us. I come from a United Way. That means that we have a variety of different programs. So in the next slide, I'll go over the programs that we are directly partnering with our local universities and our local community college to work with. Our first one is our Pathways initiative, and this is where we work with asset limited, income strained, employed individuals. So those people are working jobs, but still struggling to make ends meet. So this program looks like we are able to fund childcare. If they need a gas card to get to job, we're able to provide that for them. Our newest initiative is the Family Child Care Network. Our goal with this was a pilot program for the state of Texas to have a staffed family child care network. We provide trainings, curriculum, and some financial support for all of our family child cares in our county. And then we have workforce success. So as many return back to work, we're hoping to help upskill and reskill individuals, whether it's through a certification program or if they are able to return to school. We are here to help support them through that process in hopes that they are able to receive a job with more competitive pay. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so how we look to partner with higher education. Many of our universities have free resources that we're able to point our clients or people that we're partnering with to. So whether it's financial aid coaching, case managers, social workers, they have those resources. So how can we connect them to there and be that middle person? All of our higher education universities and colleges that we have here have very dedicated staff. Many of them sit on our board, our leadership meetings, our work group meetings. And then we all serve the same population. We're all hoping to reinvest into the community that we are in and help anyone that we can. You can go to the next slide. How we kind of figured out this world of collaboration was looking to what do they already have in place. Trying to create something from scratch can cause a lot of time. So what are they working on where we can, again, bridge that barrier or bridge that gap that is going on in our community. Next slide. Where to start, again, our area. We are very lucky to have 2 public universities. Both of their enrollments are an average of 60,000. That creates a huge population and they receive a lot of funding for programs that they have. We also have a great community college here that has many locations throughout our county. What we do a lot is we have interns. So our United Way has about 20 interns in the fall and spring semester. A lot of them are social work interns, so they need that field work hours. And so we're helping them get their case managing experience while helping individuals through that Pathways program and workforce success programs. Board members, inviting professors, admin at universities to sit on our board, and then also on our leadership meetings and our work group meetings. And they have so many connections and are able to share what they're doing in their world and how we can partner with them. Trainings, as United Way, we have taken a step to racial equitize all of our programs and make sure that everything that we're doing has that racial equity lens. Our universities have so many professors where that is their expertise. So bringing in the experts to our workplace and our work programs and making sure that we are all trained on what it looks like to be culturally competent and that our programs are all working on that racial equity lens. And then similar funders. We worked with Texas A&M AgriLife. They are funded through a similar program with us. And so how can we just create that connection with people who are similarly funded through? Next slide. So what we are doing, NCTC, or North Central Texas College, is our community college. Through them, we work with them to our individuals to get them certified. So they have a child development associate certification where individuals can get that for free through financial aid. So getting them through that helps with our family childcare network. And then also upskilling where if they just have a high school diploma or GED, we get them through that. And then we also work with referrals. So if they're working with an individual who has kids and is struggling to make ends meet, then we're able to step in and offset some of those costs that they are struggling with. With Texas Women's University, or TWU, they have a great women's entrepreneurship program. With our family childcare network, we were struggling to get people to sign on for business support. I am not a business expert. I know childcare forward and backward, but when it comes to LLC and taxes, I am not an expert. So they were able to step in and provide a self-paced training module where all of our family childcare providers can come in, do it on their own pace. And they also are different quizzes and tracks to make sure that they are interpreting all of the curriculum that they have developed for us. And through this, we've also been able to share this resource with Texas A&M AgriLife, where they are down in the coastal area and they're sharing it with their family childcare providers as well. And then with UNT, many of their staff members are on our board, leadership and work groups. And then they also have been great resources for racial equity, as UNT prides themselves on a diverse organization and university. They have done just a great job of providing us with those resources to make sure that everything is done with a racial equity lens. Next slide. Where it started, Pathways, we needed affordable courses and we needed affordable certifications and a way for people to join our Pathways program. How can we see where the need is in our community? So through them, we've been able to set up a referral for those income limited families and then enroll them at NCTC, or if they're already enrolled, then we can introduce them to our resources that we have here at United Way. And then we use our social work interns from TWU and UNT to help work with those clients and get some case managing experience under their belt as they prepare for graduation. With FCCN, the Family Childcare Network, like I said before, business education is not my strong suit. And so bringing in a program where they have the business experts in and creating that self-paced business institute for our providers that will withstand the ending of this grant and we'll be able to share with all the other family childcare networks that are popping up across our state. Workforce Success, UNT and TWU are two large employers in our area. And so we're able to point clients to them to get a competitive paying job. And then that also, they have a lot of certification careers that they support. So, and then connecting board members to those specific programs that we have going on. What we have learned is that our university and colleges share just a large impact on our communities. Like I said, that they have over 60,000 individuals enrolled in our public university, and then a larger number with our community college. So how can we leverage our resources that we have and the resources that they have to create those crucial connections that help get individuals where they want to be, whether it's career-wise or with their family childcare. Staying within the boundaries, we don't want to step on any toes and develop something that someone already has going on. And that's what these connections have helped us avoid. So what is our organization already doing great? And what are our universities and college already doing great on their own? And how can we connect those and continue to do our own work? And then committing to a dual commitment. We want to put in an equal amount of work so that we can both, put on our logos and know that we both did an equal amount of work, ensuring that there's commitment throughout the whole process. Next slide. Other ideas, if your organization is struggling to get higher education involved, looking to include interns if you haven't done that. I can assist in what that might look like, and then also adding in board members or creating a work group that has individuals from those different university and colleges that are in your area. And those leadership teams, ours meets once a month, and we are able to collaborate and look over new grant opportunities. And they also have just a great representation of what they're seeing in the community and what we're seeing. Everyone has blind spots, so just being aware of where our blind spots are and addressing them in those meetings has helped further our programs and initiatives here at United Way. Next slide. So if you have any questions about any of these programs or how we have created these partnerships with our universities and college, feel free to email me. And if you need my phone number, I can also drop that. I know some people prefer calling. And then I'll also link our website in the chat. But thank you so much, Campaign for Grade Level Reading, for inviting me.
Thank you, Shelby, for that great overview of all the programs that you are doing with support and from local universities and colleges. I especially loved hearing about that family childcare network initiative, where you're helping to train some of the women that are running their own daycares to make sure that they not only can do the core content and provide the great support for the kids, but also stay afloat and keep their businesses open. Now we're going to hear from Dr. Elizabeth Swann. Dr. Swann is a graduate of Florida Atlantic University and holds a doctorate degree in educational leadership and research methodology. Through her research and work in the areas of adult literacy, K-12 education, and early childhood education, Elizabeth understands the importance of a highly engaged education that promotes student success and lifelong learning. A Teach ambassador, Dr. Swann is actively involved in her community and passionate about enriching the lives of others through her service and leadership. She has incorporated service learning into her own personal education philosophies and often says, "I lead and learn through service." Over the past 14 years, Elizabeth has devoted her time and talents to improve her community in the areas of children and families. Since 2017, she has helped early educators accomplish their educational goals as facilitator of the Childcare Resources Credentialing Program for Early Educators. Dr. Swann is joined by Dr. Kelly Amatucci, the Dean of the School of Education at Indian River State College. She will be available for questions and conversation during our Q&A period. Welcome, Dr. Swann and Dr. Amatucci.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and get started with a bit about our organization here at Childcare Resources. At Childcare Resources, we believe quality childcare is the most important gift we can give our community. This is done in a number of different ways. At Childcare Resources, we operate our own nationally accredited preschool, We partner with other nationally accredited centers and assist with tuition and placement of children. And we provide community-wide professional development in class coaching for our early educators. And in 2017, we established our credentialing program for early educators. This program provides the quality of childcare throughout the community and enables early educators to gain knowledge and skills to improve the level of learning in their classroom. Next slide. All right, the genesis for our CPE program is data-driven in response to the fact that only 54% of the children in Indian River County were ready for kindergarten. We also know that studies suggest that comprehensive professional development that provides the knowledge, skills, and support for teachers is needed to effectively tailor instruction to meet the developmental needs of our children. So, if we better prepare teachers, more children will be prepared and ready when they enter kindergarten. According to research and quality standards set by NAEYC, which is the National Association of Educators of Young Children, there is a nationwide need to increase education requirements for early education field. Unfortunately, there are few affordable and accessible teacher training programs in Indian River County, leaving us with a large gap in services. Aligning these efforts in support of the Moonshot Moment began about 7 years ago, when the Learning Alliance created a group dedicated towards kindergarten readiness, with a community goal of children to be ready for kindergarten and having 90% of them reading by grade level at the end of 3rd grade. As you might know, Moonshot Moment and the Learning Alliances are amazing. They have won numerous Pacesetter Awards and are honored each year for their moonshot work that they do in connection with our Florida campaign for grade level reading. Let's take a moment and look at the photos that we have here posted. On the left, above comprehensive educational support, you'll see our group, one of our cohorts outside on our playground. They're joined by a nature education expert. She's showing these educators what it looks like to bring the classroom outdoors. The second photo is a group cohort that we had in our adult education space. You can see they're ready to learn and that they're all really friendly with each other. And lastly, above improved outcomes for children, you see our kids in the classroom at our nationally accredited childcare center. Next slide, please. All right, our partners. Looking at the success of our program relies heavily on our partnerships. Here we have Childcare Resources, a local nonprofit partnering with a local higher education organization, Indian River State College. To give you guys some scale here, we're a relatively small community, roughly 55 centers, educational centers in our community, correlates to about 575 educators. We are small but mighty. In fact, Indian River State College was ranked in 2019 as the #1 community college nationwide. They were awarded the Aspen Prize for Community College Excellence. Now, this award is the nation's signature recognition of high achievement and performance among America's community colleges. Here, Indian River County is just one of the 5 counties and communities that IRSC serves. We have our partnership in TEACH. TEACH stands for Teacher Education and Compensation Helps. It's a early childhood education scholarship program. It's a 3-way partnership for the sharing of expenses for tuition. First, by the early educator receiving the scholarship. Second, by the sponsoring child care center or family child care center home, their employer. And then finally with TEACH itself. And as a result, most tuition and books are covered. And by most, I mean 90%. A per semester stipend provides travel expenses and internet access and even childcare costs. And then each scholarship recipient receives a bonus when they complete their scholarship contract, which is annually given. I'm a huge fan of TEACH. I'm a TEACH ambassador. I sing their praises wherever I go. I think it's important to note that TEACH scholarship program is nationwide. It's not in every state, but if you're lucky enough to have the program in your state, I would encourage you to look it up and look at the resources for funding for tuition. All right, let's look at the partnership roles and how there's an interplay. We have Childcare Resources, which is the host, designs and facilitates the program. IRSC provides the education, those college credits, the instruction of the college credits and the college courses, and then awards the certificates and credentials. And then we have Teach that provides that tuition support. But what isn't really listed here is the many local nonprofits and businesses that support our program, either through enrichment opportunities or additional student support. And we'll get into that in our next slide. All right, look at those photos. Purposeful design. In 2017, we were funded through Impact 100, and it funded our first 2 years of this program. Impact 100, also a national model, a philanthropic organization, group of women, usually 100 women, who donate $1,000 and award $100,000 grants. It's in their name. They funded us, and they were able to create our very purposeful design. So we offered Fast Track, which is 1 semester, 16 weeks, 4 courses, so early educators could obtain their staff credential, which is equivalent to that CDA. It's in person, located at our NACE accredited center. You can see in the photos of the fun that we had each semester. The top photo, we have a play expert, Dr. Walter Drew. He got our cohort together and allowed us to explore self-active play. And then the bottom photo is a different design that the instructor wanted to have, more traditional college look towards learning. We offered these courses at night and on the weekends. Childcare was provided on site on Saturdays. It equates to about 11 hours a week of togetherness. And I often say through this intensity builds intimacy, and it really helps set that guided cohort learning model. Small, we kept it to about 12 to 18 students that matriculated together through each course. We would run fall and spring. Now, this program is encouraged and supported by their employers. And we offered a myriad of different supports through our lending library. We offered free textbooks, as well as supplemental material. We had a resource closet that allowed these students anything as simple as Scantrons, pens and paper, as well as things that they needed for their bigger projects, materials that they would need for their in-class projects. We supported start to finish. The group would get together through a orientation. We developed personal learning plans. We enriched the courses, both by design and in response to students' needs. And then, of course, hosted graduation ceremonies. Early successes led to a solidified identity within the profession, along with increased knowledge and skills and quality interactions in their classroom. And of course, materials. They walked away with their projects, and they often shared them within their associated centers. And I have to say, it's near and dear my heart. Up on my wall in my office, I have these little vignettes of our early educators. And I'm going to read one for you guys. Elizabeth Zamora, one of her favorite quotes that she gave us is, "Teaching children new things is an amazing feeling. It feels good knowing I made a difference." Her goal after completing the credentialing program was to continue her education and eventually receive her director's credential. Next slide, please. All right. I think I mentioned that we are a data-driven organization. And through our purposeful design, we were able to collect huge chunks of data on this program, both qualitatively and quantitatively. So if we look at our instructors, we were able to do an onboarding, right? To have them come introduce ourselves as an organization with those instructors, and to show them the space that they were able to use, create those connections, and build a collaborative support. Oftentimes, the instructors would utilize our facilities. We would go on scavenger hunts within the classrooms. It really built, allowing the students to see the text and come alive. It built a experiential model for learning, something that you wouldn't necessarily see in a traditional adult learning environment. We enriched our courses through guest speakers associated with the course material and in response to cohort needs. It would change each semester. We'd have local nonprofits such as Healthy Start and Tykes and Teens come in, talk about infant mental health. Of course, you've seen a picture of our play expert, Dr. Walter Drew. Nature play and curriculum experts, speech language pathologists. We even had kinder music and yoga come by one semester. We offered guided personal learning plans. This allowed each student to help them organize their thoughts and set individual educational goals. I often say it gives them time and space to think about who they are within their own organization and how their own educational goals met their personal goals. Both the cohort learning and through our personal connections, we developed, not only did we see our students to graduation, but we grew a huge alumni network that continued on their own educational journey and remained connected and saw their own visions and their goals, which you'll see on the next slide. Look at that photo. That's our graduation. Just look at that group of educators. That is our cohort all dressed up on graduation day, receiving their certificate of attendance. And following that, they would receive their very first credential, their staff credentials. So as I mentioned, those early and immediate successes led to our alumni network and to the obtainment of additional certifications and even degrees. We do want to take a moment and pause and talk about our takeaways, our learning moments, as I say. Once we began enrolling early educators in the program, we discovered that the challenges of pursuing higher education was even more complicated than we originally thought. What kind of barriers do these educators face? Well, first, transportation, right? Whether it's a shared vehicle or navigating the bus. Language was an issue, English fluency, which led to our partnership with the literacy services. If you look at the photo above addressing barriers, you'll see a group of early educators in their center. We had a tutor come out and tutor the students in English to get them at the level that they needed to be prepared for college courses. We had non-traditional students, individuals who needed their GED before entering colleges. We set aside funds and assistance to help them pursue those pathways. Transcription services for out-of-country transcripts was a huge barrier that we saw, and we were able to assist with that as well. You know, early educators work long hours, no set schedule, so having those local classes available was huge. Childcare Resources is located in the center of our town, so access to those classes, especially in a fast track, was a huge barrier relief for these educators. And then of course, lack of childcare and other family issues led to some of our teachers not feeling supported in their journey to attend college. So our program helps alleviate and address these barriers, and it's at that individual level. So through our support and our community partnerships, we're able to address those barriers and continue seeing successes among these individuals. Next slide. There we go, big dreams. Look at these photos. On the right, we have Priscilla and Barbara, who's the one throwing the confetti at the end. So big dreams equal graduation day. So so heartwarming and such an honor to witness these huge moments in these women's lives. Not only were they the two that graduated this semester with their associate's degree, their journey began with us in the CPE program, completing their certificate course for staff credentials. We here at Childcare Resources are committed to continuing education support to make our participants, our early education teachers' dreams truly come true. We are here to set them up for success and to achieve their individual education goals. This is through our program support, our design, and our partnerships. And just seeing these women cross the stage and make it to their finish line is so heartwarming. And it's a true honor to be a part of this process with these individuals.
Thank you so much, Dr. Swann. It's really inspiring to see the depth of the programs and the work that you're doing around improving childcare and helping those in the field to really get excited about providing the best educational support they can to the young kids that they are working with and caring for every day, and seeing the pictures and hearing the voices just made it more clear how impactful the work that you're doing is. Thank you so much. We're going to take a little time now for our Q&A. And so if our presenters want to come back on camera, we're going to have some questions for them. And if you have questions, please feel free to put them into the Q&A box. We do have some time for questions. I have a couple here that we're going to start with, but it's not too late if you have something you want to ask one of our presenters. So the first question we have here is about if the community was interested in either establishing or revitalizing a relationship with a higher education partner, from both those of you who are sort of from the perspective of the college and university or those who have been partnering. Do you have any advice or specific guidance on where they should start, whether they were establishing, just starting off, or trying to revitalize a relationship?
I would say for us, the biggest thing was taking their expertise, what do they know best, and plugging them into a work group. We also sometimes ask for volunteers, so getting them out to volunteer so that they can see what programs we have, and they can step in and we can ask for their expertise on that.
Thanks, Shelby. Other thoughts?
Well, maybe I'll build on to what Shelby mentioned. So speaking from the perspective of a college, universities, they're big places with lots of little pockets of lots of people doing lots of different things. So it's hard, I think, sometimes to think about the college or the university as a single group. So I think what I'm hearing from Shelby is forming those personal relationships in different areas that can then maybe help you navigate the rest of the institution.
Great, thanks, Monica. And Kathleen, it looked like you might be.
Yeah, I was going to say that sometimes it's organic, which isn't really a very good direction, but I met Dr. Wisniewski, who is here on campus through the Metropolitan Area Planning Agency, because I sit on a board, so sometimes it just comes alive. And I think if you're doing, like Shelby said, if you're doing good work, it's going to get noticed. And one thing that Dr. Wisniewski said to me was, thank you for helping me understand we can just ask. We can ask for something. We have some good ideas and we can ask for it with regard to the grant that we are awarded. So again, sometimes it's just organic, but if you're doing good work, don't be afraid to ask.
Thank you.
I'd say ongoing communication. I am new to early childhood, and Dr. Swann reached out to me as soon as I moved into this role. And so it's just open conversations, asking what is needed, looking and finding out what the barriers are. We talked about, hybrid classes because of the transportation issue. So it's just open conversations. I'm going to go up and visit their site and spending time together and getting to know one another, I think, is important.
Great, thanks. Any last thoughts on that question? Okay, great, all great feedback. We have a question here for Dr. Amatucci. What do you see as the growth of training of pre-K teachers? It's so important, but it seems there are not as many universities and colleges offering degrees for early childhood before kindergarten.
It's obviously very important, as we've all have been saying, and making sure that we have teachers that are effective and have the training that they need and the experiences. I think part of what will address this in Florida is we have the Get There initiative that's happening, where we're developing, stacked credentials for folks to start off at a very early level in early childhood programs. earn their credentials in, say, CDA, get a job, and then we walk them through the next levels of pathways. And so get them into potentially one of our other technical certificate programs, moving them into maybe the AS degree. We are currently working on an AA degree that will then lead into a bachelor's degree. So for me, I think it's having the opportunities available. Identifying where the gaps are. We don't offer a bachelor's degree in early childhood yet. So we're working on the notice of intent as we speak so that we can submit it and get it and apply it as quickly as we possibly can. And so I think it's paying attention to where the needs are, noticing where the gaps are, and then providing the resources that we possibly can. Not sure that they answered the question.
That's great. Thank you. One question specifically for Grinnell College on the slide that you had about the network information sharing, where there were so many connections. Are there any things specific that you do that you think has led to having such a connected network around information sharing and the other things that you outlined?
I'm going to let Melissa handle that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. I think really the heart of our office, you know, for the last 20 years when Monica started the Office of Community Enhancement and Engagement has been really convening and our role as conveners. And I think that that's played a large part in the conversation and the ability to build that network as in our rural community. We are seeing Grinnell College, particularly in our office, we bring a skill set of convening. And I think that that's really helped to kind of establish the network is we approach things in a partnership way. We're very much, we take on the partnership role, right? And that we work, like I mentioned earlier, through the collective impact model, thinking about those co-created solutions. So when we convene, we're not convening to share, you know, our ideas, we're convening to hear others' ideas and work together collectively to develop solutions that are going to be a good fit for our community by engaging a diverse group of stakeholders.
Great, thank you, Melissa. Right, one question that we've been asking everyone throughout the campaign for Grade Level Reading Network, as we feel like we're sort of coming out of the pandemic, is reflecting on ways that your work may have changed or ways that you did work in a new way during the pandemic, and what are the keepers from that time? There may be things that that you aren't going to keep or that don't even have become so normal now that you almost don't think of them as things that were different in the pandemic. But do any of you have thoughts around this work and in particular connecting with universities, but just in general as well, around what are some of the keepers on the work that you've done? And before anyone answers, we do have a poll that just came up. So we're going to keep talking through the poll, but if you're a participant, please, we definitely use this information. It's very helpful for us. So thanks for completing it while we continue the Q&A. Yes, Dr. Swann.
Start. One of the ways that the pandemic affected our program is we went virtual, right? So a huge shift in our model. One of the blessing moments of that is our funding partner, Teach, was able to utilize funds to meet the needs of our students. They actually allowed each scholarship recipient $500 to purchase their own personal laptop. And we just got word recently that that is going to be sustained. So it's a model that's going to be sustained going forward. So that was just a keeper that was that we didn't know we needed, but is just incredibly helpful as we go forward with a blended model, courses continuing to be offered online.
Great. Others?
And I'll jump in. An interesting thing that happened with our program during the pandemic, as you mentioned, we went virtual too, right, with our community partners, and how do we continue to support the work of the campaign in a virtual environment? And one of the things that we noticed, we have amazing community partners, but what we had to do is shift our model to identify ways that we as organizations could work together more closely. So we saw some of our community partners, they had aligned the work before, but now they're aligning in different ways. We saw that during the regular academic year, as well as what we're seeing with summer sites coming together to align their work to better support kids and families in Grinnell. And they've done that all along, but I think it was particularly noticeable during the pandemic and has really helped to make that, the pandemic helped to make that shift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that from a couple others, and it's so interesting that this time when we had to kind of stay away from each other made us in some ways get more connected. It's great to see. Thank you. Any other thoughts on that question?
Yeah. I would just say that most of the momentum for the Omaha Urban Thinkscapes happened during the pandemic. We had met earlier, and we're sort of in, and so I just had the time and I followed up again, and they said, yes, we're interested, and it moved along. So I don't know if because we could stay in our own place and have the conversations that you know, the time saving amount of that, Omaha's not that large, but still to travel, you know, to get together, maybe that was part of it. But to me, it's kind of a miracle, and it kind of makes sense at the same time that this gained momentum in a very, very odd time. And another thing that we did through Metropolitan Omaha Educational Consortium was we meet with the literacy leaders. So we were meeting every month with the people on the ground in, you know, in the trenches, so to speak, and working, and we gleaned, you know, what was working for them. And I think they were able to have conversations, you know, honestly about, you know, how they were running their classes. Is it, I'm doing both remote and learning, or we assigned another teacher? And so they were continuous, and they do that anyway in person beforehand, but they were, you know, it was kind of a miracle there too, that they continued that work and that great conversation all throughout the pandemic, and are using some of the Iowa Reading Research Center modules for prepping for the new school year.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. We're coming right up on time, so I want to thank all of you for sharing your expertise and your passion for this work with us. So Monica, Melissa, Shelby, Dr. Swann, Dr. Amatucci, and Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us today. And thanks as well to all of our participants for joining us. We're going to just pull up our GLR Tuesday slide once again, so that for those of you who may not have seen it at the beginning, you know some of our upcoming webinars. We have one in just an hour on technology to accelerate learning, tech-enabled solutions to address learning loss. And then next week, you'll see here we have, sorry, that one is not correct. So we'll have to go back to the first slide for those of you who want to see those, because these are our old slides. Sorry about that. I think most of you know where to get to our webinars, so thank you very much again, and we'll look forward to seeing you on one again soon. Thanks so much, everybody.